welcome to Horror Movies and Beyond, a show about reviewing horror movies for the living to understand the dead. I'm your host, Ivotres Littles, and this is Raw Review, where we get up close and personal to some of your favorite horror movies. Today's guest brought us some unforgettable horror movies. Remember VHS, the segment 103198? Where a Halloween night turns into a haunted escape room? Ready or Not, a wedding night with a deadly twist. And their most recent release, Scream, Ghostface is back and with a new look. Let's welcome Matt, Tyler, and Chad of Radio Silence. Hi, guys.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm sorry, did you say something?
I said it's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. I'm so excited about this. This just means everything is the next step of my life. It's like now it's like I feel serene. But how you guys been?
Good.
Great. Excited that the movie's out. You know, we had to sit on it as a finished thing for a lot longer than we're used to.
5 months.
It's great that it's finally out in the world and that, we're so thrilled with the response.
Oh, that's good. I was a bit nervous, not because I thought something bad about the film. It was just, I was like, I see a new chapter of this. I want to see where it goes. I mean, everybody wanted to see how it was going to turn out. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was sitting there. I was like, wow, okay, I get it. And that's when I noticed some stuff in this film as far as like, I was looking at Gail's clothing and then I saw like her necklace. And then, I saw Dewey's clothing. Each one of them had a different style, but I think it represents something. And just like little details, the wiping of the knife and things like that. I was like, oh, I see this. So I had to take a lot of notes.
Awesome that you're picking on all that stuff. That's one of the things that's most exciting to us about making any project is, and I think the thing that we did for the first time is obviously stepping into an existing franchise, hiring people who really love the previous movies as much as we do, and find really specific ways of channeling their love and their attention to detail into a project, and certainly all of that stuff down, from the costuming down to the set design, all of those little details, they're all born from the minds of people who really, really love these movies.
Exactly. So let's get started. Oh my God. It's like, I just want to dive in there. But before we do that, before we talk about that, we will talk a little briefly about VHS, you guys, segment 103198 and also Ready or Not. But before that, we got to get to know a little bit about Matt, Chad, and Tyler. So how did you guys meet?
That's a very good question. Matt and Tyler worked together at New Line on the office side of things. I met Matt in an acting class in Los Angeles, and we just all started getting together and making shorts. We all had similar sensibilities in terms of what we wanted to do, and we weren't really finding it out there in a more traditional sense, like through auditions or traditional jobs. So we're like, let's just combine forces and start making our own things that we could hopefully entertain ourselves with. And we kind of just ran with it a little bit. And YouTube was very good to us in the early days. So this was like 2007 to 2011, more or less, where we were just like trying to make mini stories and mini narratives that would people would be able to engage with on multiple times and keep coming back for more.
Okay. When working with each other, what do you guys enjoy about working with each other? Is there anything each one of you have that the other one admire?
Do we enjoy
Nothing?
This?
Nothing.
I mean, honestly, I think part of working together that's so nice is, to answer your question, we complement each other in a lot of ways. But I also
never actually paying each other
compliments.
No,
never paying.
Yeah.
Never going to pay each other compliments. But it's also, there's just something, there's like, it's like any team where, you know, you work with other people on something, you can celebrate the good times, you can commiserate when it's not so good, you can bat around ideas, you can really like kind of try to bulletproof things as much as possible. And, you know, it's just having people who have your back and working with them and knowing that we're all in the same thing together and trying to achieve the same thing. I think it's just, you know, for us, it's invaluable.
Yeah, and it's weird, for as unique as it seems, you look at a lot of filmmakers who have, you know, careers that span many movies and many years, and oftentimes you find that those people all work together on various projects, right? Like you have a director that loves the same composer, the same director of photography, the same costume designer, the same cast, and that for us is a part of the process from just, you know, the absolute earliest stage. That's how we love to work together, and I think that it just feels weird when we're not doing it. We're not doing it together.
But we are doing it like 24/7. So
Yes,
we see each other more than our significant others
for 13 years, every day.
Oh wow, that's a long time. Most relationships don't even last 13 years.
We've been working together longer than any of us have been married.
By a
lot.
significant amount. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Because I noticed, you know, there seem to be 2 directors in most of your films. How do you guys split the work in that? I was always curious how that works out, or does the one person just focus on this type of project of it, or the acting or the action? How do you guys do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty natural split. I feel like over the course of working together, we certainly have come to understand like what our natural talents are and where we overlap with each other. When we're specifically on set, it's really, you know, our job is about making things as sort of smooth and as clear as possible for everybody that's involved. And so that oftentimes means that, you know, one of us will talk to actors, one of us will deal with the technical side of things, and then the other one deals with the producing side of things. And those are kind of the 3 big buckets that everything ultimately ends up fitting into when you're shooting a project. And we've just found that being able to go in with a unified sense of what the movie should be, and then dividing and conquering on a day-to-day basis, it's produced a really great result for us. And, you know, again, where there's
and it
so
makes
much
the process
overlap,
fun.
Yeah,
it's just like
we trust each other, and we also kind of all know that at the end of the day, you know, the thing that what we want, what we hope to achieve, we all have a really similar sensibility of what that is, and it's just about finding the most fun path to achieving that.
A lot of takes with some version of like, me, and just run. Like, you know, it's like, I'll just see it, we see what happened, we kind of know what we need to tweak and change. And so it's, you know, it's like, again, it's like any kind of team where you have to have a shorthand and you have to be able to just like, okay, go time.
Okay, so you guys rely on, it's constant communication, like constant, right?
Constant.
In order. Yeah. Okay, so what are the challenges of having 2 directors on a set?
I don't know if there are challenges that are in addition to the challenges that already exist in the filmmaking process. I actually feel like,
I feel like it makes it
well,
easier.
versus one director on set, you know, versus 2, like with their, what's the difference for you?
I think the big challenge, honestly, has been convincing people that it's not going to be a total mess.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to, I think that just has to be, that's only in practice do people kind of realize, oh, this isn't confusing. Everyone is on the same page. And because there are multiple people sort of, you know, working on this project, that actually invites me into the process in a new kind of way. It invites new voices and other collaborators into shaping what the project ultimately is. And I feel like that's really the hurdle, is just convincing people that it's not going to be a total disaster.
I can't think of any hurdles we come into on set because of it.
No, I don't. In fact, I would say all of our directing friends who do it alone often are like, God, I just wish that like there was somebody I could share all of this responsibility and stress and anxiety with. And so, if anything, I think it's
the paycheck.
It's more, yeah. That's a great answer.
Oh, okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about VHS that came out in 2012, and you guys did the segment 103198. That is one of my favorites in the entire series, because it's very, very simple. I mean, you guys are getting ready to go to, looks like a Halloween party. And you guys find this house and you go inside and goof around. And then all of a sudden you start to hear some weird things. But in the process, the audience is seeing some strange things, as well as, I believe, Matt, were you holding? No, Chad. No, who was holding the camera? Tyler, were you holding?
Yeah,
you was in the. I'm sorry, I went through the whole group.
Tyler,
you were holding. Yeah.
Sorry.
So you were dressed as a horse? I don't know, a bear?
A bear, a nanny cam.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you were a nanny cam.
Yeah.
That explains it. So, and we could see weird things happening, as well as you guys being goofy. There's one more, Paul, who's with you. And all of a sudden you start to hear some weird noises, and you go up these stairs, and it's like chanting or whatever. And we get to see like what's going on. You guys think it's a joke, and then it just turns like crazy. My favorite part out of there is when Chad hauled ass. He was like, the first one got. See, I would have done that. I would have been. It kept going. I would have gotten in the car and drove off.
Right. I think you're also the
how.
There,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You're
the
the
first
first one
to charge back
in. So in Chad's defense,
right.
That cracked me up so much. I have to ask, where was that house, and was it designed that way? Because it did have some weird furniture, wallpaper.
We didn't do anything with the house. We did.
Oh wow!
We found it.
We found the house like a week before we started shooting, and we're like, "Oh, this is great." And then we went out to the house, walked around the house, and kind of reworked the script to match what was in the house, because we wanted to get that production value right. You don't want to like cut things off or. But
all production value was built in.
Yeah, it was all there.
We didn't bring any furniture. We didn't bring anything.
Yeah, nothing. Everything was just at the house. It's like a rental and an Airbnb, and
it's in Altadena, right?
It's in Altadena, so just north of Pasadena, in California. And it's been used in other like location shoots, but it's a historic landmark. So they didn't do anything like that. So there's a big plaque on the front, on the front of the house that you can't take it down. But
visible in the movie.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, exactly. We cover that up.
A big part of all of our early stuff was knowing that we had to deliver on the production value and not having the budget to build anything. Yeah. So it really was so much of all of the making of our early stuff. The majority of the time was just finding locations. Yeah. Like, what's the thing where the production value is just built in, and we don't have to spend money. We don't have to set dress or do any real set design. And that place was like a real gold mine.
Yeah,
that house.
It really was
so cool.
It was a great find.
Flag back here.
Sorry. It was creepy enough when you see like little things happen and you're like, did I see that? Did I not see that? But once you guys were trying to get out that house with that girl, it looked real. It looked like those arms were coming out. I mean, the smoke, I don't know. I would have dropped her and ran. I couldn't have saved her. I'm sorry. The moaning, the chase, the smoke chase remind me of oh my God, it slipped my mind. I didn't even write it down. I'm terrible at that. House on Haunted Hill. But the 1999 version, when the smoke was chasing him, and then you could see like weird things in it. I was like, when you were in that basement, Matt, holding her, you were the last one in the back. I was like, oh, he's dead. He's gone. And you were like, hurry up, guys. And it was like coming. I was like, oh my God, that was so freaky. How the special effects? How did that work?
And Martinez, who is we worked with for many years and was our effects guy, and he and so many other things, but he's a self-taught VFX artist, and he was such a huge part of the production value being what it was on our early projects. It was like one of those dudes that you would just say, hey man, we should create this thing, and he'd be like, all right, I'll learn how to do it, and he would do it, and he would do it better than anyone you would hire to do it.
And a lot of times we would have like an idea for something, and then part of the conversation would be like, all right, Justin, what are you what can you do? Like, what are you interested in? And he'd say like, oh, I can do arms coming out of a wall. And be like, great, let's make that happen here. You know, it'd be like, he'd be working on things and kind of bring that in, and then we'd find a way to incorporate it to make it what it becomes.
Yeah, and there were also times when he just wanted to pitch an idea, and like we'd like listen to his pitches, and then he'd be like, "Oh shit! Now I have to go learn how to do that, so I can do it." Like, it's a great pitch. We'll listen to you, and then he basically just taught himself how to do whatever he needed to do.
I mean, the Reapers he did in Southbound, he created these like creature monster things, and he was like, "Yeah, no, I can do that," and then it was exactly that. He was like, "Fuck! Now that's what I'm doing for the next 4 months."
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some like I said, House on Haunted Hill, and then that kitchen scene with the chairs up and the dishes flying. I was like, Poltergeist. I mean, there's so many elements in there, but it all worked, and I just absolutely love it. So it was good. It was so good. I was hoping you guys would have got out the car, but
that
yeah.
There's a take that we have online that is us getting out of the car and walking away as the car gets demolished behind us.
We'll send you a link to it. You'll appreciate. You'd appreciate us. Us surviving.
Funny.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Alternate ending.
I left my helmet in the car. Yeah.
Back to the party.
Next up, I was going to talk about Ready or Not. That was a fun ride. Samara Weaving was brilliant, and there were so many great people in there. That movie was unbelievable fun. It was not boring. It wasn't long and drawn out. It got to the point. I love when, because I was worried as it was coming on. I was like, I wonder how they're going to start that. Like if she has to fight her way, because I kind of got some idea, because it's been out and spoilers everywhere. I was like, how was it going to happen? But when you saw her sitting in her wedding dress, waiting to go down, it was like straight to the point. Like we don't need to know. We'll know everything right now. And that's how it began. And then they sat in that room and gave her like the rules, and she picked that card, which I thought was unfair. I was thinking that card, all of them probably the same one, or one is just in here. That's the one everyone picked. I was like, come on now, really? But then I realized one of the characters, I don't remember everyone's name, but she was the real like slim one with that kind of flapper's dress. And I kind of heard her say that when I got in the family. So I'm thinking you can survive, but maybe, I don't know. But tell me, oh, okay. But tell me, I'm sorry, what?
Oh, no, nothing. Just saying you can, Grace got the wrong card.
Oh, okay. So tell me about that film. How much fun was that? It was bloody. It was crazy. It was just loads of laugh.
I mean, it was fun to make. It was like a 26-day shoot. We shot it in Toronto and Oshawa, mostly. We shot it 2018, and it was just a blast because I think everybody involved kind of knew what they were getting into. They knew that this was going to be fun. It was going to be like a little heightened, everybody's kind of just above reality a little bit. And the blood that you're talking about, we did all the blood stuff, the explosions, the first few days of shooting. We started with that.
Oh, wow.
So I think it worked to really get the production off to like it gave us good momentum because we pulled off what was the hardest gag in the whole movie. Yeah. So it gave us a confidence to be like, okay, cool. Now we can go do the rest of this. But it also was just a great way to kind of break the ice. I mean, it was really fun to get everybody in a room and then blow shit up.
Yeah. To trust you and trust that it was going to be something that was a real, communal kind of family experience from beginning to end. And that was a tough shoot. I mean, at 26 days to make that movie was, I think if you gave us that schedule now, we would say, no, there's no way you can achieve it. And it's just,
which to be fair is what our AD told us when we gave her the schedule then. She said, you can't do this.
Yeah. And again, it was a collective team effort, right? Everybody involved was just invested in it so much, from every cast member, every crew member. That first week when we were doing the blood explosions and the body explosions and everything like that too, it was time to break for lunch, but we had one more setup to do just to get in. So we kind of said, all right, cool, everybody can go to lunch. We're going to just get this shot real quick. And I remember looking at the monitor and then turning around, and I saw every cast member, every crew member just huddled around us, staring at the monitor. And then from there on, you just know, all right, we're all in this together. we're all making the same thing. We're all passionate about this. We all want this to succeed. And that was like a great feeling, and it really carried through the entire shoot.
I also think, just to say it, it's something that we've tried to do in everything we've ever made. And honestly, I feel like so far we've got really lucky, but we cast people that are like nice human beings.
Yeah, that you want to hang out with, as well as
it sounds so simple, but like we've never had a bad apple, and it's always been really fun. I mean, unless you count us when we're in our
we're the only assholes.
But yeah, it's like it's just everybody just got along, and I think I don't know how we would function on a set where everybody's not at least respecting each other if there's something's hard, and like having a nice conversation, and like really just, and then ultimately all becoming like really good friends.
Yeah.
Okay. I think what really worked in that film was Samara, her character, because when I saw her in Mayhem, I absolutely loved that film too, and I was like, oh, she's pretty good. She's not afraid to get dirty and gritty, and just get right in there. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, she's not the typical, helpless. No. She was like, she's badass. Like she's gonna fight. She's gonna, do stunts. I don't know if she did her own stunts, but it looked like she did. But
yeah, a lot of them. And it was one of the things that we loved so much about working with Sam is, and who that character was on the page. We think that what's so different about Ready or Not is that you have a character that's making the smart choice the entire time, but the obstacles just keep sort of stacking and stacking and stacking, and they just find themselves in like an increasingly absurd and impossible situation to escape, but that they still just continue to make the choice that you or I would make if we were in that situation. And Samara's ability to do all of that, to make all of that feel really honest and grounded, but to also have enough of an awareness of how absurd the movie is, how it is, like Matt was saying, that she can also go for that joke, or like go for that one moment where it's just amplified a little bit more, and it totally fits in the tone of the movie, but it also just gives it that like really fun texture that that ultimately is like what the identity of Ready or Not is.
For sure.
It's her. It's Grace's movie.
And the thing that Sam brings to it, like that is just so I think you either have it or you don't, is she's so vulnerable and she's so strong at the same time. So you have that vulnerability, like I think lets us in and we can all relate to it, and then that strength kind of empowers her through it. So you're like really rooting for her, because I just think everyone kind of see themselves in her in a way that's like you want to. It's kind of what you're saying about making all the choices. So the choices are written right, and then Sam just embodies both sides of that coin in such like a whole way.
Okay. Yeah, because of that movie, she's like one of my favorite actresses. Like I just absolutely love her work now. I mean, I liked her before, but this one I was like, she's my favorite. She's my favorite. She's
Mara fan club. Yeah. I remember.
It's like when I grow up, I want to be just like her. Okay, so why did I bring those up? Because I saw something in those that I saw in Scream, and like the drive in that. I mean, that was so fun to watch in such a very short amount of time. And I also believe that was the history of doing your short films as well. Like you get to the point, there's nothing to draw out and just like, oh my God, it's been an hour. Can we get this going? Yeah. No, it's like straight. As well as Ready or Not, it did the same thing, and the quirkiness and the fun in that as well. And I saw that in Scream. So we're going to talk about Scream. So if you guys been watching, yes, we did some spoilers for the other ones, but hey, they've been out for a little bit. Now we're going to spoil Scream. So if you haven't watched it, oh well. But there's some, go. If you haven't, go watch it first. Go watch it. It's well worth it. But if you're going to stick around, we're going to talk about some stuff, some details, some interesting things that I found about it. So, but I have to ask some basic questions. Like, when you guys were approached to do Scream, I mean, how did you guys take that? I mean, I probably would just been a bundle of nerves.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
We were like, what? And actually, we came to this room that we're in right now, this table, and we sat here and read it. That was the first time.
Yep.
We got a call on a Friday saying, hey, we want you guys to come read it on, I think, Monday, right? And we went in Monday morning and we read it here. And it, you know, and we had, you were mentioning it earlier, all like the, you know, nerves watching it.
The
like, I hope,
anxiousness.
like, I hope it doesn't suck. And that was what we felt when we were reading the script. We were like, fuck, because our really good friends wrote it. And it was very much a kind of made, you know, you're talking about the passion, and it's like, it was made by hand in a lot of ways. You know, it's all like, it's a big movie and it's a franchise, but it feels very homegrown. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we came in here and we read it and we got through the script and we all kind of turned to each other like, holy shit, this is great. Like, we've got to do this. And it was but the nerves never left. I mean, never.
They still aren't gone. You know? A couple weeks after release, it's like, I mean, now the movie's forever, right? And now it's just part of the Scream family for history. And but now it's out there and part of it. But yeah, nerves will never leave.
Do you think that it helped working with the same writers? I know they want to keep the integrity of Scream from the past, but they also may have wrote it the way you guys work. So, I mean, did that help?
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, and I also think that we all were influenced in a similar way by the original Scream. You know, the original 4 movies and all of Wes and Kevin's work. I think that it shaped all the 3 of us and Guy and Jamie in really similar ways, and I think that our sensibilities, we owe our shared sensibility to those movies in so many ways that I think it was just. We all knew we were going to have fun working together. We also, I think, just felt like we were all on the same page from day one with what we wanted the movie to be and what we thought it could achieve. I don't think that there was a moment in the script where we went, what if we did this differently? Like everything was like, hit us right on the bullseye, hit it. Like it was exactly what we could have hoped for and more at every single turn.
Well, and then also because we are really close with them and we text with them every night until like midnight, basically, right?
Yeah.
There's like, they were because of COVID, they couldn't come out because set was very restrictive, but we were in constant contact with them because, you know, we have to make a lot of changes on the day or the day before because of production, nothing to do with the script. We just literally can't do something the way it's written. And so to be able to have that open communication where we could like, text them, hey, up next we're doing X and this part isn't going to work, and then have a great thought come back in when we're kind of in like the fog of war, like, okay, we have so many things that we're juggling right now. To be able to work with them so closely throughout the process, I think it's just invaluable. Like when we hear about directors who don't work with the writers, it feels to us like crazy.
Yeah. So how did you guys prepare for this? Did you watch all full movies or how did you guys prepare? Once you got the script, it's like, we got to do it. So what we need to do to prepare?
Watch the movies. And then COVID hit, so we had extra months.
Right.
We're supposed to go in March. But yeah, we watched all the movies. We read a ton of interviews, watched a ton of interviews with like Wes. Tried to kind of get into Wes's head as much as possible because we never had the chance to meet him.
Spoke with Kevin a lot.
Right.
Kevin.
The director commentaries on the DVD, like listening to Wes do the play-by-play thing. Talking to Patrick Lussier, who was Wes's editor on the original, and just getting insights of what they were going for in the edit room so we could really get in there and see what they were doing while they were making the original.
Yeah.
That just seemed like... Oh man.
Heads. You hire a DP that loves the movies. You hire a line producer who loves the movies and a costume designer. Like you just start building a team of people who all have the same level of love and appreciation for these movies. And it's crazy how once like it really is a pressure over time process. Like it always feels like a movie just happens, but it never does. Like it's a million choices made over a lot of days and a lot of years. And you just have to start putting the right pieces together. And then that creates more choices. And then eventually you're on set shooting the thing. It's really wild.
We also, I think because it was Scream, we went back and kind of rewatched all of the like our favorite modern horror movies to kind of, you know, because Scream has to be so aware of what modern horror is and modern genre. And so we rewatched a lot of those. We also watched a lot of whodunits to kind of decode how like the best whodunits really, you know, a lot of them, and I mean Scream does this, they basically tell you who the killers are and then tell you that it's not that person for some reason. And then tell you again it's probably that person. So it's like, I think every whodunit we watched at some point in the beginning of the movie, you without a doubt go, well, it's definitely that person. And then that gets unraveled. And then it ends up being that person.
Were they attached already, or was convincing them to do it? Like, was they already attached to the script when you got it, or?
They weren't initially attached. I think the way the process, the way it went with Project X and Jamie Vanderbilt, who wrote the script, also produced, he went and got Kevin Williamson on board first. So we started with Kevin Williamson to make sure he was like giving the project his blessing. And then after that, we went out to Nev, Courtney, and David, and we showed them the script. They read it, they dug it, they got what we were going for. Kevin put in good words that, hey, we know it's not Wes, and nobody's ever going to be Wes again. That's just the way it is. But they're in good hands with both Project X and us, and then we wrote them letters and just told them why we wanted to make it and how much of an influence Scream was to us throughout our formative years and coming up as filmmakers, and but then we got the deals done and they were on board, and
I mean, we didn't get the deal.
No,
done, but
yeah, they did.
done.
Yeah. But then, for us, is like we knew the necessity of having Nev, Courtney, and David. It was we needed them.
And it was on the
Scream
page.
Movie.
Yeah.
We needed to have them.
It was on the page. They were so essential. It wouldn't have made sense to go forward without their involvement.
Ghostface. I noticed some changes. The style, the movement, the way it acted. How much was that influenced by you guys' creation versus the past movies you guys watched? Like,
I mean, I think the short answer is the same that applies to everything for us on this, is that we have all of the influence and studying the first four, but it all sort of gets filtered through our taste. So, I don't really know how else to describe it. It's more just like, we know what it is, and here's our version of it, we don't like overthink it in terms of, well, we have to do X, Y, and Z. It's more like, well, that's what we like this guy here.
Yeah, that looks cool. Honestly,
it looks cool.
It's when you, it's like really a visual thing, I know when our costume designer brought us in to look at the robe for the first time, and we were talking about how a lot of it's just practical too, right? Like, we knew we were going to be doing a lot of stunts, and we didn't want the hood to be moving in front of the mask, and so Emily built this hood that has a sort of thick piece of foam that's lining the edge of the mask, so that it gives you this like real sense of a drape, even in motion. And so they're also just things like that. The enclosure these are magnetic snaps, so that we could get the stunt people in and out of the costume quickly. So it's a combination of just what do we need to actually technically make the project, and then at the end of the day, like, what just looks cool, and that was the glittery fabric.
Yeah, it is glittery. There's a lot of people who think it's not glittery. It's glittery.
Yeah, there's a lot of sparkles.
There are a lot of sparkles. You can really see it in the Judy scene. It's not as present in the other one.
You see it the most. Yeah.
So let's get into the scene here. The first scene with Tara. She's at home doing her thing, and then all of a sudden a phone call. So I noticed it was very similar to the first one. And I thought that was really cool. So was that intentional, like this homage to Wes Craven?
Well, that's
what I read.
And this is one of those things I was talking about earlier with the layers, because one of the things that I think was really great about the script that we've talked about a lot, and this hits people at different times, is that the reason that the opening scene is like the Drew Barrymore scene is because the killers are trying to recreate it in the movie. They're very much they're waiting for her to be alone so that they can take advantage and create their version of the Drew Barrymore scene. So the movie is homaging essentially Stab 1, while we're homaging Scream. there's like a nice meta like sandwich going on.
It is a reflection of their love of the first stab and simultaneously our love of the first movie, of the first Scream movie.
Because I think we all had slight reservations when we first read it, and we're like, oh, this is just kind of doing the same thing. And then when it clicked for us that we realized, oh, this is the killers recreating it, it was like, that's rad.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. When I first saw it, I was like, "Yep, here we go."
I mean, honestly, General Ortega bringing it to life is just fucking. I mean, we got lucky that we get to work with a future multiple Oscar winner who's like one of the great. Like
that was a hard one to cut down because every moment of it was.
Because she doesn't have a false moment ever.
Good.
Like, yeah.
There was a small detail that I noticed is that when the wiping of the blade. And I was like, that's important because I've seen that. And then you see it later. And I have a theory, but we'll get to that. we'll get to that. Their clothing. I think their clothing played a really big part as this movie moves along. So like Dewey, we meet him and he's wearing, which I have here, he's like a blue shirt and a brown jacket. Those colors are saying something to me. And they're saying that he is grounded at where he is right now. And you kind of see that when they're trying to get to him for help. And then you move on to Gail, where we see her and she's this bright red. And I love her necklace because to me, when I saw that, I was like full circle. Okay, we're going to go circle on here. Red, passion, the feelings they have for each other. I also have Sydney where she wears a lot of black and brown and some blue. And it's kind of muted. Like she's kind of in her place where she's, comfortable where she is. And then obviously it gets wild later. And then we have, I also want to talk about, there was something significant about Tara in the hospital scene, which we get into. And they remind me of Halloween. So like I said, you guys really, really get into there.
Yeah.
Huh? I'm sorry.
Too, when she's crawling.
Oh yeah, I was in the theater. I was like, oh my god, Halloween too. They're so amazing. But first, let's get into the not just the opening scene, but afterwards where we see like Ghostface, the first reveal. How did you want the audience to just like understand who is this Ghostface based on the actions when we first seen him? The phone call was a little bit more sophisticated than the ones in the past. It was using more technology, now. I mean, it just like Ghostface 5.0. From what you guys watched into what we were seeing, how elevated did you want this Ghostface to be? Like a menace? Or
I mean, menace is a good word. Like,
okay.
We talked about a lot is that we wanted to make sure that this Ghostface was scary and, honestly menacing. Like,
brutal,
right?
Brutal. Yeah. I also think one of the things we talked a lot about is, because we're making a Scream movie during a time where audiences are so aware of what movies are and they've seen so many movies and the conversation about horror has evolved in so many ways that character Ghostface has to be articulate and smart and ahead of the audience and ahead of the characters in a way that while you could argue that that's the same for every Scream movie, that was a particular challenge with this because current modern audiences have a hyper awareness of all of those things anyway. So Ghostface to be ahead of those characters and ahead of the audience, Ghostface had to be playing a different level of game. There had to be another sort of there had to be like an amplified level of manipulation in what they're doing with the characters, and that was always something really fun. And again, that's just credit to the script. That was all of those little moments of manipulation were all in the pages, and the evolution of those scenes were so clear in the script.
Okay. I also like the names because when I was looking at their names, I was like, oh, there got to be some really significant in their names. Tara,
Chad.
Billy Loomis. Yeah. Like I was like, okay, here we go. But I had did my own digging, and I was like, wait a minute, Samantha, Sam, and then Loomis. So she would automatically be, Sam Loomis if she didn't take the Carpenter name, which Samuel Loomis is in Halloween. There were a lot of references from different, and I also saw a little. I don't know if it's intentional. Nightmare on Elm Street, and I don't know if that was intentional, but I was like Nightmare on Elm Street, especially New Nightmare, especially with Sydney had to go back to the house and she had to go back to the beginning, and I kind of remember when Wes Craven told Heather Langenkamp's character to, hey, you got to go back to the beginning, like those almost those exact words. And then you saw Sydney in like halfway in the house, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, because you guys pay homage to so many other movies.
I think that some of those feel like, and this is true for a lot of the movie, I feel like we're so immersed in all of that, in all of the nightmares and Scream, that a lot of it kind of comes through accidentally. You know what I mean? Like some of it's very intentional, and some of it I think is just a product of, we were talking about just earlier.
Being in the world.
Yeah, when you just live it, you end up kind of like doing things that you love in other movies. And I mean, there are some very, for Elm Street specifically, there are a couple very specific Easter eggs. There's the Elm Street sign, and Nancy is one of the Nancy and the I think there's two of them. The names in one of the phones are some of the Elm Street characters.
I really enjoyed that you gave Sam, which we know that it's Billy Loomis's daughter from, a long time ago, and that craziness that she had. Because at first I was a little jarred that she was talking to, because we all talk to ourselves. Well, at least I do. And when she was talking, and then we saw the reflection of him, and I was like, that's wild. That is wild. And it also made me think, well, maybe he was crazy from the first one. Like the craziness is passed on, and she was hiding obviously with some pills to bring the story full circle. Because I think we needed some craziness in there. I mean, he was already crazy, but with Ghostface running around, but we really needed that. Was that something in the script where you guys were like not unsure of how it would plan out? Because to bring everyone back, we need something. How did that work out?
I mean, I know reading it for the first time on the page, we all loved it, and also knew that it was a crazy risk. That it was the thing that felt like, wow, can we do this? And at the same time, it also just felt so essential to what this story was, that you couldn't have a character that was the product of like one of the original and most iconic villains of all time and not see it. It felt like a really hard story to tell just in the telling of it. Like it felt to us like it wouldn't work unless you really saw Billy. And after that, it made a lot of sense to us that, whenever you see Billy, you always see Sam in the frame as well, right? It's always clear that he is a reflection of her. He is a dark thing that's inside of her, and not just a character, not an apparition. But loved this idea that at the sort of heart of this story, and this is kind of has a sort of meta layer as well, that we're making a legacy sequel, right? Where we have old legacy characters and a new cast, but we also have a character who's fighting with her own weird, fucked up legacy, that she is the product of something really dark and of a character who's done some really, really terrible things. And we just love that the damage that could do to somebody is such an interesting thing to explore, and really gave us like a really fun place to start that the Sam character that's so different than Sydney in so many ways. And so ultimately her kind of reconciling herself with her lineage, with her legacy. It's just such a fun arc, and we love that character and how it played out.
It's also, I think, kind of interesting that for us, it's what Tyler was saying about him being a reflection of her. That to us was really important because we've had a few people reach out to us now about talking about like his arc, how Billy Loomis's arc has changed. And for us, Billy Loomis died in 1996 when he got shot in the head. This is her version, her interpretation of Billy Loomis. This is not literally Billy Loomis. And I think that was something that really mattered a lot to us. And we tried to go out of our way to make sure that even those kind of like the fun moments that we have with it, like when he kind of lets her know, like shows her the knife, that those are things where, the knife is in her peripheral vision. Because, we had to talk to Melissa about this too, to make it like all of a sudden you're not like seeing ghosts telling you where things are. It's that, in her brain, subconsciously, she knows the knife is there. Billy's helping her see it. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that. And then the ghost nod at the end, which we love because we got to do the same thing in Ready or Not. We were like, this will be our thing. We'll have a little ghost nod. Our signature at the end.
But deep down, all of it thematically, it's connected, right? I think children paying for the sins of the parents is something that was like definitely explored in the very first Scream. How Sydney's character was basically paying the repercussions for what her mother was doing, and like that's what came out for the motive of the killers, and now just to be able to explore that in a different way through the other side of that coin with ours, I think it was just thematically totally on point for Scream.
I really do love that you also brought in the Meeks. The Meeks family, the niece and the nephew, because as soon as they started saying who they were, I was like, oh, I remember. It just brought back so many memories.
Yeah, it's like Jamie Kennedy, that character, Randy Meeks, and this goes for I think every character in the original particularly, but in all the movies, that they bring a texture that is so essential to the identity of what a Scream movie is, and it felt really strange. It just felt obvious, like we have to have that character that has that crazy, hyper-aware movie monologue. And why not, if we're making a story about legacy, why not have it be somebody who is in relation to Randy in such a specific way? And we love, what Jasmine and Mason did with those two characters. It's on the page, but then you see it come to life when it's in the right hands, and you're like, oh my God, it's like they're living, breathing characters, and we love the Meeks twins so much. And they survive.
We got to do it again with them.
Because I was thinking, because of their uncle, I was like, oh no, were they survive? Especially the scene when she was on the couch. And she was like, look behind you. And I would say, girl, look behind you. I'm like, look. So I love that interaction. That's one thing Scream does. Like, you can't help but to interact with the characters from real life. And you're like looking at the screen. Because even on the first one, the theater was packed. And everyone was screaming and hollering and cheering. And even when we saw this one in the theater, people were cheering and screaming and just like, oh my God, look behind you. And like, it just felt, oh my God, I felt like a little girl again.
Yeah. All you want to hear when you're making something is that someone will have an interaction with it when they're watching it.
And why do you think Scream does that? Like, why? What is it about Scream, as well as you guys' movie, that interact? Like,
I think it lets you know. I think we just, from the first movie, you just know let's have a good time. This is fun. We're in on it. I mean, Scream is, I think, one of the first movies for us, at least, that we saw that lets you in the very beginning. When Ghostface starts talking to Drew Barrymore about like what this movie and that movie, you're like, oh wait, I know this. This is me. I can be a part of this. I can play along. And I think it lets you into that fun and that kind of tone right away. And then that's consistent through all the movies.
And it's aware of the experience you're having.
Yes.
It is totally telling you, I get it. You're watching a movie, but you're also watching the craziest version of a movie. It's just such a unique and smart way to let people in to the experience.
The hospital scene where Tara is being attacked. And well, not yet. She didn't get attacked yet, but there's some weird stuff. There's all okay. I don't understand a hospital in a horror movie. There's nobody never around. It's packed during the day, but all of a sudden everybody disappeared. I don't get it.
She's on the private floor. It's a bit of a stretch. Sustaining your disbelief.
As soon as she got in that wheelchair, I was like, okay, here we go. And it just reminded me of Laurie Strode's character from Halloween 2 when she's trying to get away and it's just right there and she's just trying her heart out. But there was something in there I noticed when Ghostface called Sam and said, hey, have a choice, your boyfriend or her. And I was like, she's not telling, oh, save my sister, go after my boyfriend. She was not saying anything. And I was like, that's a red flag. I even wrote red flag because he gave a choice. He kept telling her your sister or your boyfriend. She was like buying time. And I just thought, if that was me, I was like, oh, you could get him.
Agreed.
Like, who cares, or something. But I just thought that was, I wrote a note. I was like, something may come up about that later on. Not just in the film, but maybe something else later. Maybe another film. Because I was like, why wouldn't she? I don't know. It's just a red flag. How fun was to make that scene? Because it just reminded me of like Halloween 2.
Yes. I mean, I think one of the things that we've seen a lot of people mention is, we were like hoping for a chase scene. And for us, that's the chase scene of the movie. Like that's the thing that we loved is the subversion of it being like it just is the slowest chase you've ever seen. Like the fun of it is that it's the predator playing with its prey, and it's an escape that is impossible to make. And that for us was just such a fun new texture to have a character that is so debilitated and is so unable to do the thing that's just 5 feet in front of them. And we loved the ticking clock of that long hallway. And I mean, it was one of the hardest things to shoot too. Like just a really we used the whole length of it of that hospital hallway. Yeah. And it was also one of the cooler sets that we built, since that was like, obviously we do like to shoot things practically, but like we were shooting in the middle of a pandemic, so we couldn't get access to a hospital. Hospitals are pretty busy at that time. So we ended up building that whole floor on one of the stages in Wilmington, and then we used it for both floors. So we swapped out the break room that Sam's attacked by Ghostface in for a file cabinet room that we used in that scene.
That's not in the movie.
Well, Ghostface comes out of it.
Dewey. We never see it though.
Yeah,
right?
but we never see him.
Yeah. We had a whole scene in it. Cut.
It got cut. Yeah.
Director cut.
Yeah.
We don't need it.
So I want to talk a few more about scenes and then, kind of wrap things up. But another scene I thought was very, very important was the Wes and his mom, Deputy Hicks. And I was like, why would you go out for groceries if you know that kids may be in danger of going? So I was like, that kind of was weird. But I love that scene where he was like setting things up and, la, 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 la. And the mom is like driving with, Ghostface and trying to, oh yeah, you the one left your son and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, you left your son. Why would you do that? But that whole manipulation. But then when he's like in the refrigerator, like every part, the way the camera was, it wasn't like dead on him. He was in the center. It always would like move over. And like if he opened the fridge and then closed it back, is right there with him. And then it's like, oh, there's nothing. You're like, oh, nothing. Like every time. That's why I like love you guys, because it's like the whole time you're waiting for something and nothing happens, but when it does happen, you're not even ready. You're like, oh, I wasn't ready for that. First of all, if the door opened and I knew I locked it, I'll be gone. Out. I wouldn't even think twice. But then he would have saw his mom. Poor thing. That was sad. So, but I think in this scene, correct me if I'm wrong, the swiping, it was either through him or swiping of the knife when stabbed and then it swiped. not sure if it was him or
it's the first kill, Ghostface.
The first, okay.
And then at the end, Sam does it.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was the first one with Tar or with them, but I was like, I knew there's a swipe, and then I was like, that's important. That's very important.
Ghostface move. Yeah, it's it's one of those. It's like it's one of those things that are
the head tilt. It's the Michael Myers head tilt.
Yeah.
So, and it's also, we thought it was cool to have Sam do it at the end, kind of the Billy Loomis inside of her coming out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ghostface being super manipulative. That, like, given that we're in a time when people are so aware of like the rules of horror movies, wanting Ghostface to really fuck with people in a different way.
Okay, so just a few more, and yeah, and then we get that'd be it. I want this to go on forever, but the things I wanted to talk about was I'm gonna change the order of here because talking about the next scene got me. So I'm gonna move on. That would be the last thing because it got emotional.
I think we
just
know
thinking about it.
That one.
I think you guys know what I'm talking about. So okay, the wiping of the knife, that right there, and then so we get to the part where we already well into the battle scene when it finally revealed Amber and Richie, we know who they are at this point, and between Gail and Sydney, because they followed them up to this point, and we realize Sydney had to go where the beginning, go where it all began, and then we realize it's Stu house. It's like, oh I didn't even realize that. First of all, I was like, girl, you knew what happened to you. You should have remembered where you were. But I guess it was like crazy and she completely forgot. Gail was standing, and then it was Sydney on one side when they finally like just tore up Amber. Poor thing. I felt bad for her. I was like, to go out like that. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, she double whammy. But yeah, so they were standing, and then I saw Sam stand between them, and I noticed her shirt was a combination of theirs, because there was like one color was blue, one color is black, and her shirt was a mixture of both. Okay, I know I'm I don't know if it just wardrobe was like, hey, throw on this shirt, it looks cute, or it was like a new beginning, a new something. I don't know. Did I see too much?
Yeah, that it's this is a new thing. But I mean, yeah, you're spot on.
Oh. I was sweating. I was like, "Ooh, they ain't saying nothing." When I saw that, I was like, "Hold up, we're getting a beginning of the end type thing here." Next up, from that we moved on to the end as they were leaving, and then that's when we find out the twins. It was like, but yeah, some people you thought were going to die didn't, and some people that should have been dead is still walking around. You're like, wait a minute, Then that's when Sam kind of went up to them and said, hey, can I live my life, or whatever, like. And it's kind of yeah, and I mean, I was thinking in my head, like, girl, no. Do you see what happened? You see what we went through? Right. I don't know, but that whole scene was like very like satisfying. That was a very satisfying, and something else. And I was like, there's going to be another one. So like, was that any indication at that moment?
Fingers crossed there's going to be another one.
That's the hope.
Was that like the feeling that you wanted to give the audience, like there could be another one? Or because I kind of felt that, right, when she got into the ambulance, I was like, this is not it.
Yeah, we wanted it to be a satisfying movie in and of itself, where you can watch. It doesn't have like a crazy cliffhanger where you have to go see the next one. But, I think one of the things that we all love about Scream is the characters, and just to know that they've had this whole journey, and now that journey, this part of the journey is over. and you can, take a deep breath. And then that journey will hopefully start up again in about a year and a half.
Right? Yeah, because as soon as when I heard Gail said, I'm gonna write a new book about Dewey, and I was thinking, girl, you need to stop writing these books. You bring in danger. I mean, let it go. Okay, now speaking of Dewey, I did not see that coming, and that was such a hard. I'm sorry.
No, us too.
That was such a hard scene because, in 1996, I was cheering for Dewey. He was just like this underdog, and you just grew to love him. And no matter what happened, you thought he died and all of
Yeah.
And then he comes like strolling out, like, oh, and you're like, oh, Dewey! You hear the cheers. And so when in this one, you had no thought. Like, I did not see any, oh, he's not going to survive. That was the hardest scene to watch because it just felt like he just didn't die. Like, he dies. I'm sorry. Yeah. He was my favorite. It was so hard to watch it. Like, not just a stab, it was like stabbed gut and split up. I was like, he just went out the most coldest way. And then, when Ghostface stood there and it was like, it's an honor, that was the most traumatic and beautiful scene I've ever seen in a horror film, because it just let you know no one is safe and the end is near. And I'm sorry, it was such a hard, it was like my childhood right there died.
Yeah, dramatic and beautiful are like the two. That was what we hoped to achieve, that it feels really hard, but also weirdly heroic and kind of romantic, because he goes out looking down and seeing Gail's face and seeing that Gail like is reaching out to reconnect. And that was all of that was just so beautifully handled in the script. And then, being there on the day and watching David just be so in that moment.
It was hard.
It was really hard, but that was the challenge of that scene, was to just make it more than just a brutal kill, but to make it a heroic send off and romantic and, kind of a natural end to the life of someone who's always tried to do the right thing and actually succeeds. He saves Tara, he's able to actually affect some real change in that moment. And it's so fucked up.
And it's also, there's, one of the things David told us when we were prepping for it was that his approach to Dewey was always that Dewey thinks that he's Clint Eastwood. And so for us, it was like, let's make that final walk, like just a legitimate Western Clint Eastwood style, full hero's walk, so that he got to have that moment at least once where he wasn't just like, he was a real hero for that scene. And that was really, it was hard, like what Tyler was saying too, though. It was really hard to shoot. Like, the reality of making it was difficult because we all have these same things. We all grew up with Dewey. We all love Dewey. And even when we read the script in this room, it was like,
we all took a moment after we read it the first time. We all had to get up and walk around and go outside and get some fresh air the first time we read it. It just, it affects you on another level.
It's why we love these movies, because we're that attached to the characters. Like, to have this reaction that like you're having right now and that we've had to a character is so special. Like, that means
rare.
That means that character matters. I've seen lots of characters die in movies that I do not really care about. So when this happens, it's it's really special. And then, the great thing is that we still have the other 4 movies where he lives that we can watch anytime we want.
Yeah. But it's like the realization that he won't be in any others, that's
what shoot with him again, which is a bummer because David is the best.
He's the best.
Like, it was just like, I'm telling you, like, I sat there and when he got stabbed once, I was like, he may be okay, because he's been stabbed 9 times. But then when I saw that other one come, I was like, you could hear the gasp. People gasp in the theater. I was like, that's it. And my eyes watered up and I was so heartbroken. I was like, why these guys do this? Why? But it made sense because that, you know, for the character, for him and just Scream, it was the beginning of, for me, I was 16 when I saw that film. I wasn't old enough to see, you know, Leatherface, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Friday the 13th and whatever. I wasn't old enough to see those iconic characters come in play until later on. So seeing, you know, I was there when the first Scream, you know, I was there on the second Scream, third, fourth. So it was just like, you invest in these characters, you love these characters. It's just the beginning of my childhood on slashers, you know.
Yeah.
So to see him go out, it was just like, it was a realization that these characters are getting older. You know, they're not going to live forever. They're going to go. And I kind of knew, like, out of all three, he would probably be the first. It was just how he was going to go, and if, you know, maybe he wouldn't. But to see him go, it was just like, okay, these characters are going to go. And if there's a next one, that is going to be very hard, you know, to see Gail go and Sydney. It's like, oh, just, oh.
We don't want to kill Gail and Sydney. We didn't want to kill David.
You know what? You know, the thing is with me, it's like, at some point, horror has the certain era have to end and move on to the next. You could only go so far, because we see, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis' character, she was also very expensive probably for the next one, because we didn't see a lot of her, but she getting old. I mean, she can't be running around and do flips like she did in H2O. So eventually they're going to have to die off or quit, you know, and that was just hard to see him go. I'm sorry, guys. I feel so.
No. But you're right. I think that you hit it on the head. You know, for us, it's sometimes the most beautiful moments are when you say goodbye to one chapter and you know that another one is, you know, is starting, and that's what that death for us really is in so many ways. It's this like love letter to what was, and also create space for something new, you know, and certainly the grief and reflecting on who that character is as a hero is such an important part of that story. And we know that whatever happens next, you know, Dewey will be a part of it, because there's no way for him to not have been a part of it, given how much he's affected all the characters in those stories.
I absolutely loved what you guys done with this film.
Thank you.
The homage that you guys did, and you treated this film like a delicate flower, because you knew it has such a huge following, and people were going to scrutinize and what are they doing? But you didn't care. You did it. You did you guys' best. And I knew after watching the movies that I watched, I was like, okay, this is in good hands, and they're going to take care of us as fans who grew up with this, and also to see a new life from different directors. We need that. You know, I don't mind having the same director do the same movie all the time, but we saw something, and I appreciate it. A lot of fans out there appreciate it, and it's just amazing work. You guys did a phenomenal job.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been so awesome. Then you have great, by the way, your questions and your observations about the movie are spot on, and we would just really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you taking this time out. So thank you guys. So if you guys want to see more videos like this, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to follow. Check out Scream if you guys haven't. Own the DVD when it comes out. Own everything. Buy a Ghostface. Whatever you have to do. Represent Scream, and love these guys. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, talk soon.
Great to see you.
Till next time.